The NASA nap and adenosine flush. At NASA's Ames Research Center in California, researchers once faced a problem that couldn't be solved with coffee. Fighter pilots and astronauts were sharp, trained, and motivated, yet their performance still dipped in mid-mission. So in 1995, NASA tested something radical. Not more caffeine, not more discipline, just a nap, but not a long one. Picture this. You wake up in the morning, and from that exact moment, your brain starts burning fuel. Every thought, every decision, every blink consumes ADP, your brain's energy currency. And just like any engine, burning fuel creates waste. In this case, a chemical called adenosine. Think of adenosine as exhaust fumes inside your skull. As the hours pass, this chemical builds up, attaching itself to receptors deep in your brain. The more it accumulates, the heavier your mind begins to feel. Not because you're weak, not because you're lazy, but because your brain is signaling one thing very clearly: pressure is rising. This is what fatigue really is. Now here's where the loophole appears. NASA discovered that a 10 to 20-minute sleep window is long enough to release a large portion of this adenosine from its receptors. But, and this is the key, it's short enough to keep you out of deep sleep. No plunge into slow-wave stages. No mental fog. No groggy wake-up. You're not shutting the system down. You're clearing the cache. Sleep longer than 30 minutes, and you risk waking up mid-cycle, trapped in sleep inertia, where your thoughts feel wrapped in cotton and your reaction time collapses. But at 20 minutes, you stay in the light stages. The brain cleans itself without powering off. NASA measured the result. Performance jumped by 34%. Alertness doubled. And here's the hidden advantage most people miss. Caffeine doesn't remove adenosine. It just covers the warning lights on the dashboard. The chemical is still there. The pressure keeps rising. A short nap, on the other hand, actually lowers adenosine levels themselves. You're not fooling your brain. You're resetting it. This makes the microsleep the only short rest with a true biological return on investment. No crash, no penalty, no debt to repay later. But if 20 minutes can chemically clean your brain, what happens when sleep goes deeper and starts rebuilding it instead? The Ubermensch Paradox. This idea didn't come from a lab. It came from obsession, from artists, inventors, and modern biohackers chasing one impossible goal: more time. Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, and today, Silicon Valley founders who believe sleep is negotiable. The method is called polyphasic sleep. 2 total hours a day, broken into 20-minute fragments. Every 4 hours. On paper, it sounds like a superpower. In reality, it's a biological stress test. When sleep is restricted this aggressively, the brain panics. It knows something vital is missing. Normally, it takes about 90 minutes for the mind to descend into REM sleep, the phase where emotional repair, memory integration, and psychological maintenance happen. But when REM is constantly denied, the brain adapts in a way that feels almost illegal. The moment the eyes close, it skips the line. No drifting, no deep slow-wave descent. Straight into REM. This phenomenon is called REM rebound, a neurological shortcut born from survival. The brain rewrites its own architecture, sacrificing structure just to reach the one phase it can't live without. It's not elegance. It's desperation. And yes, there is a hidden advantage. You stay functional. Reaction time survives. Motor control holds. You can speak, type, drive, respond. Over decades, this schedule could theoretically give you the equivalent of 20 extra waking years compared to the average human life. But listen closely to what disappears. The brain's ability to connect distant ideas begins to collapse. Divergent thinking fades. Creativity thins. You stop seeing patterns between unrelated concepts. The spark that produces insight quietly shuts off. You become efficient and empty. Historical accounts tell the same story. Buckminster Fuller experimented with a similar cycle known as the Dymaxion sleep schedule. Productivity increased, but so did emotional instability, social detachment, volatile moods. The machine ran, but at the cost of the operator. The real hidden lesson here isn't that humans can survive on 2 hours of sleep. It's that the brain is plastic enough to rewrite itself just to keep you alive. But survival is not optimization. This isn't thriving. It's a controlled collapse that hasn't finished yet. So if sleep deprivation can force the brain into emergency mode, what happens when sleep is abundant and the brain finally has time to upgrade instead of just endure? The drunk threshold. At the University of Pennsylvania's sleep laboratories, researchers noticed something unsettling. People who slept only 3 to 4 hours a night didn't just look tired. On cognitive tests, they performed the same way as someone who was legally drunk. This is the zone where hustle culture thrives. When your body realizes sleep is being cut short night after night, it doesn't interpret it as ambition. It reads it as danger. In evolutionary terms, a lack of sleep meant one thing. Something is hunting you, or you're on the move. So the body flips a switch. Your adrenal glands flood your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones designed for emergencies. The result is a strange mental state often described as tired, but wired. Your heart races. Your thoughts feel sharp. Fatigue seems to vanish. At first, it feels incredible. For days, sometimes weeks, you feel unstoppable, focused, aggressive, productive. This is the so-called founder's high, a chemical illusion powered by survival hormones, not rest. But scientists at Harvard Medical School and the University of Pennsylvania tracked what happens next. After roughly 2 weeks on a 4-hour sleep schedule, cognitive performance collapses. Reaction time slows. Judgment erodes. Memory fractures. Measured objectively, the brain is now operating at the equivalent of a 0.1% blood alcohol level. Here's the terrifying part. You don't feel worse. Your internal sense of fatigue flatlines. The brain disables its own warning system. You begin to believe you've adapted, that you're part of the rare short sleeper elite, linked to a genetic mutation on the DEC2 gene that affects less than 1% of humans. But you're not special. You're impaired, and too sleep-deprived to recognize it. The hidden advantage of this phase is nothing more than borrowed energy, a loan taken out against your nervous system. You're burning through physiological reserves with no awareness of the cost. The real glitch is brutal. The brain turns off the "I'm tired" indicator right before critical systems start to fail. It can work for short emergencies, finals week, deadline crunches, survival sprints. But as a lifestyle, it's not productivity. It's a slow-motion shutdown. So if chronic sleep loss can trick the brain into feeling powerful while it's actually drunk, what happens when sleep goes even lower and consciousness itself begins to fracture? The glymphatic wash cycle. At the University of Rochester Medical Center, neuroscientists made a discovery so strange it sounded impossible at first. They found that the brain has its own cleaning system. Not metaphorically, physically. It's called the glymphatic system. If you're sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night, you're in what modern society calls functional. You're not hallucinating. You're not manic. You can work, drive, talk, and think well enough to get through the day. This is the global average in industrialized nations. But something crucial isn't finishing its job. During deep, slow-wave sleep, especially in the early part of the night, but only if sleep lasts long enough, brain cells undergo a dramatic transformation. Glial cells, in particular, shrink. Not slightly, by as much as 60%. Picture that. Your brain tissue physically contracts, opening tiny channels between neurons. Once that space exists, cerebrospinal fluid surges through the brain at high speed, flushing out the metabolic debris left behind by a full day of thinking. This is not symbolic cleanup. This is a wash cycle. Among the waste being cleared are beta-amyloid proteins, the sticky plaques strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease. When this system runs fully, those toxins are carried away before they can accumulate. But at 5 to 6 hours of sleep, the cycle doesn't finish. You get a rinse, not a deep clean. You wake up with traces of yesterday still lingering in your neural pathways, microscopic residue building slowly, invisibly, night after night. The hidden advantage of pushing beyond this range into 7 hours or more is simple but profound. The cleaning cycle completes. The system finishes what it started. But if we isolate the 5 to 6 hour sleeper, the benefit is more modest. You've achieved enough core sleep, those first critical cycles, to prevent immediate breakdown. Your metabolism stabilizes compared to the 4-hour group. You're no longer running on emergency hormones alone. Still, biologically, you're living in a house where the trash only gets taken out occasionally. It doesn't smell yet, but the clutter is growing in the corners. And if the brain can physically cleanse itself when given enough time, what other systems quietly switch on only when sleep becomes truly sufficient? The second sleep phenomenon. Long before electricity and alarm clocks ruled our nights, humans slept differently. Historical diaries, medical texts, and journals from medieval Europe through the 1700s reveal a pattern that feels almost alien today. First sleep and second sleep. People would go to bed at sundown, drifting into roughly 4 hours of deep slumber. Then, around midnight or 2 a.m., they'd wake. Not because something was wrong, but because this was normal. They'd spend an hour or two reading, praying, visiting neighbors, or making love before returning to bed for another 4-hour stretch. This wasn't inefficiency. It was biology. During that midnight wakefulness, the brain surged with prolactin, a hormone linked to relaxation, calm awareness, and a unique state of meditative quiet. It was a buffer between unconscious sleep and waking life, a sacred pause where creativity, reflection, and gentle awareness could flourish. Modern insomnia often hijacks this natural rhythm. Society forces us into one rigid 8-hour block to fit the demands of work and productivity. But if you find yourself awake at 2 or 3 a.m., you're not broken. You're simply echoing the sleep pattern of your ancestors. The hidden advantage here is subtle but powerful. Instead of stressing about lost sleep, which spikes cortisol and kills the sleep drive, you can harness this window. Quiet contemplation, journaling, meditative practices, or gentle movement all align with the natural prolactin peak. This is the medieval gift buried inside modern insomnia, a nightly hour of peace, awareness, and reflection. And if reclaiming this second sleep can restore harmony to your mind, imagine what happens when we fully respect the deeper, restorative hours that follow. Memory save game mechanic. In the 6 to 7 hour sleep window, something extraordinary happens inside your brain. Neuroscientists call it memory consolidation, but it's better thought of as your brain's save game protocol. During the day, everything you learn, facts, faces, movements, is temporarily stored in the hippocampus. Think of it as RAM in a computer, fast, flexible, but fragile. Without proper offloading, new experiences override old ones. Memories vanish. Skills decay. Knowledge slips through your fingers. Sleep acts as the transfer mechanism. Stage 2 sleep, which dominates around this 6 to 7 hour mark, generates sleep spindles, brief bursts of brain activity that shuttle memories from the volatile hippocampus to the neocortex, the brain's long-term hard drive. The hidden advantage of reaching this threshold is profound. Procedural memory, the how of everything you do, gets cemented. Whether it's playing piano, coding, or refining a golf swing, the actual learning doesn't happen during practice. It happens while you sleep. Studies show that after practicing a skill, 6 hours of sleep improves speed, accuracy, and efficiency the next day without any extra effort. Your brain rewires neural pathways while you're unconscious, upgrading your internal software. Cut sleep short to 5 hours, though, and the system fails. You may remember facts, the what, but the how disappears. Motor skills, fluency, intuition, all of it suffers. Sleep isn't just rest. It's a nightly backup of your mind, preserving the experiences, skills, and subtle competencies that define you. And if 6 hours can save memory, what happens when we push past 7 and let the brain enter its deepest, most restorative states? Emotional thermostat. In the 7 to 8 hour range, the brain enters what sleep scientists call REM sleep, the heavy cycles that dominate the second half of the night. Deep sleep handles repair and restoration early, but this late phase is where emotional recalibration happens. Wake up after 6 hours with an alarm, and you've just skipped the most critical cycle. The hidden advantage of staying in bed longer isn't extra rest, it's emotional mastery. During REM sleep, your brain is completely free of noradrenaline, the chemical that drives stress and fight-or-flight reactions. In this stress-free window, memories are replayed and processed. The emotional charge, the fear, the anger, the pain, is stripped away, leaving only the factual narrative behind. This is why a trauma feels overwhelming at first, but manageable after a week. You've literally slept on it. Skip this phase, and your brain remains chemically reactive. Your amygdala, the threat detection hub, stays on high alert, up to 60% more reactive than a fully rested brain. Neutral faces look hostile. Emails feel like attacks. Social interactions feel dangerous. Paranoia creeps in. The hidden advantage of completing the full 8 hours is subtle but transformative. It's not just feeling awake. It's navigating complex social worlds with clarity, calm, and resilience. It's emotional intelligence encoded into your nightly cycles. In essence, during this phase, your brain is defragging trauma, pruning stress from memory, and resetting your emotional thermostat. And if sleep this deep can regulate feelings and social perception, what happens when we reach the final, regenerative stages that literally heal the body itself? Testosterone and HGH spike. In the 8 to 9 hour window, the body enters athlete mode, a period of intense physical reconstruction. This is when muscles repair, bones strengthen, and the hormonal symphony of growth and recovery peaks. For men, sleep is the single most powerful regulator of testosterone. A study from the University of Chicago revealed something striking. Men who slept just 5 hours a night for a week had testosterone levels equivalent to someone 10 to 15 years older. Skipping this crucial window isn't a minor deficit. It's aging your endocrine system by a decade. But testosterone isn't the only player. The human growth hormone, HGH, surge dominates this phase. While HGH pulses throughout the day, the largest spike, around 70% of total daily output, occurs during the early stages of slow-wave sleep. Full duration is essential because receptor sensitivity and systemic repair processes need sustained exposure. This is why elite athletes like LeBron James and Roger Federer sleep 10 or more hours. It's not indulgence. It's a legal, performance-enhancing protocol. During this window, your muscles repair micro-tears from exercise, rebuilding stronger. Collagen production ramps up, helping skin, ligaments, and bones rejuvenate. If you're training hard but sleeping only 6 hours, it's like revving a race car while the parking brake is on. The real gains don't happen in the gym. They happen in the 8th hour of sleep. This is the body's switch from catabolic breakdown to anabolic building, where recovery and growth are maximized. And if sleep this deep can literally rebuild your body and reset hormones, what happens when we explore the final stages that support longevity and life extension itself? Eureka Void. In the 9-hour sleep zone, the brain enters a place scientists and artists have long whispered about, the Eureka Void. This is where creativity thrives on the edges of high-volume sleep, in the liminal spaces of hypnagogia, falling asleep, and hypnopompia, waking up. History is full of these moments. Dmitri Mendeleev saw the periodic table in a dream. Paul McCartney awoke with the melody for Yesterday fully formed in his mind. These breakthroughs didn't happen in forced focus. They emerged from the drift of long, uninterrupted sleep. The mechanism is something called associative distality. Awake, the brain is logical, linear, filtering irrelevant connections to stay efficient. But during these extended sleep phases, the filters relax. The mind begins linking A to Z, exploring absurd, improbable associations. This is the hidden advantage of a 9-hour night. You're letting the brain play in the sandbox, running nonlinear simulations on problems that seemed unsolvable yesterday. Wake up abruptly at hour 7, and you snap the brain back into linear thought. You cut the solution off before it ever reaches consciousness. But the natural 9-hour sleeper allows that impossible connection to travel from dream to waking life. It's a creativity hack that cannot be rushed, a gift unlocked only by time and uninterrupted rest. And if sleep this long can spark insight and genius, what mysteries await in the final stage, where longevity and life itself are optimized? Depression loop. At the extreme end of the spectrum, 10 to 12 hours, we enter what sleep scientists call the depression loop. This is the sleeping beauty zone, where rest can cross the line into risk. For teenagers, whose brains are still under construction, or for people recovering from serious illness, this duration is vital. But for the average adult, oversleeping hides a dark downside. Research shows a U-shaped curve for sleep and health. Too little sleep is dangerous, but too much carries risks too. Higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, and, crucially, depression. The hidden mechanism is inflammation. Chronic oversleeping raises systemic markers like C-reactive protein, creating a foggy, lethargic state sometimes called sleep drunkenness. But it goes deeper than fatigue. Extended sleep can become a retreat mechanism, a way the brain avoids confronting stress or emotional challenges. In this range, REM cycles dominate excessively. While REM is essential, too much can amplify depressive rumination, cycling negative thoughts instead of processing them. This is why wake therapy, a controlled period of sleep deprivation, can temporarily lift depression. It jolts the brain out of the sluggish, over-REM state. The hidden advantage of understanding this limit is simple but profound. Sleep has diminishing returns. Enough restores, too much can harm. 12 hours is not a supercharge. It's a warning signal that the system is struggling to reboot correctly. Unless your body is healing from trauma or fighting illness, the 12th hour is where the glitch flips from protective to harmful. Sleep is a tool, but like any tool, wield it poorly, and it can cut both ways. If you found yourself amazed by the hidden powers of sleep, don't let this knowledge fade. Hit that subscribe button and join Strange Wise, where curiosity meets science and mysteries become clear. Turn on notifications so you never miss a journey into the secrets your body and mind are hiding. Share this video with anyone who thinks sleep is just rest, because now you know it's a biological superpower waiting to be unlocked. Your next breakthrough could start tonight with the way you sleep.